The controller debate is truly one of the few arguments that has split the entire competitive community since the start of competitive play. Now, despite your first thoughts, no, we are not getting into an aim assist debate. That's a can of worms that I'm going to leave for another episode. Well, if I'm not talking about aim assist, then what am I talking about? That's a really good question. I'm glad you asked. Today I wanted to talk to you guys about why I think the competitive meta has such a huge impact on whether controller players are relevant or not. Now, as the title says, yeah, controller players have definitely had a very interesting relationship with the competitive scene. I think the first time we really started to think about controller players and their involvement with the competitive community was all the way back during the summer skirmishes. Like, I'm serious, if you don't remember Nick Merckx and Aiden linking up and absolutely destroying at Tilted Towers, then I don't think you can call yourself an OG Fortnite player. And watching those guys go up and up all the way to the sky limit to take on a huge build fight and enter big bonus territory, oh my god, that was probably peak Fortnite at the time.
Bonus territory. Aiden matching this. Look at what he's doing right. Absolutely stunning. He's got the high ground for the moment. The shot comes in.
Are you kidding me?
By Saint.
Nick fighting out.
There's the other, and Nick's on his feet, folks. It's big bonus as the duo.
But after all those skirmishes, the summer skirmish, the fall skirmish, once those passed by, it seemed as though controller players were slowly fading into irrelevancy. And I'm not talking about from the content creation perspective. Obviously the controller scene was still popping. There's so many controller players, but if we're talking about peak Fortnite talent, it just seemed as though controller players began to lag. We'll talk about that a little bit later, but I want to actually just quickly fast forward to today, where we have players like Unknown Army absolutely killing it in the competitive scene, recently winning the Fortnite Championship Series and bagging so many Cash Cup wins.
Yo, there's no way.
And if you guys have watched YouTube at all during the past few months, you've probably seen videos from your favorite players like Booga and 72 Hours, all uploading videos of them playing on controller, trying it out, and seeing how their aim was absolutely bonkers.
Oh my, knocked him!
In my box.
Coming. Oh my god! This is so dumb! I picked this up for half a second and just, oh my god!
And I just want to reiterate this, I am not having an aim assist debate right now. You guys can probably have that in the comments or whatever, but I am simply trying to make the point that controller players were super relevant, started fading off, and now they're making a huge comeback. And the question that I'm asking and answering in this video is, why did that happen? Why are controller players suddenly coming back in a way that's completely unprecedented?
Why?
Alright guys, so to break it down, we really need to just ask ourselves the first question. Why are controller players fundamentally different than keyboard and mouse / PC players? No, I'm not tricking you guys. It's a pretty simple answer. Controller players obviously have very good close to medium range aim, especially with spam weapons like SMGs. Not to mention they also have pretty solid aim from long distances as well. Aim is pretty much the strong suit when it comes to controller players. But that doesn't come without a trade-off, because anything in life has its pros and cons. Because what the controller players have in aim, they lack in dexterity. Because anyone that has truly elite mechanics, especially when we're talking about things like box fighting, you're probably going to see that they're on mouse and keyboard. And Phase Sway, my friend, my good friend, don't take offense to this. Obviously you are a GOAT when it comes to creative free builds, but I'm talking about specifically for competitive play here. Trust me guys, I'm getting to a point here. Alright, so we know that controller players have specific advantages and weaknesses in comparison to PC players. So when we put 2 and 2 together and see that Epic Games has made so many meta changes over the past few years, it's not really that much of a stretch to believe that these meta changes are actively changing how relevant controller players are in the competitive community. So let's go back to that original point I was making a few minutes ago, the Aiden and Nick Merckx situation. So yeah, the original skirmishes, summer skirmish, fall skirmish, they pass, and then in the next few months the World Cup begins to gear up. Among the multiple hundreds of qualifiers for the solo and duo events, only a handful of the qualifiers were on controller. And when the dust settled as the World Cup wrapped up, we saw 3 keyboard and mouse players win the Fortnite World Cup solo and duo events respectively. Apart from Wolfies, who had a stellar second place finish in the duos event, we didn't see any top performers on the controller input. Basically overnight, we saw controller players fade into oblivion. But the thing is, if we skip another few months to basically where we're at right now, it seems like everything has flipped and controller players are again all the rage. Just to backtrack a little bit, if you go back to the skirmishes, you could see that they basically perfectly align with Season 5. And you know what Season 5 was most well known for? Spam meta! You had the drum gun, you had the SMG, you had all of these busted spam weapons that could have basically replaced a shotgun if you could hit your shots. And when you're on a controller, I mean, hitting your shots from a close range isn't an arduous task to say the least. And to tie it up to what's happening today, if you think about it, Chapter 2 also kind of reinvented the spam meta. Not in the same exact way that introducing a busted drum gun would, but let me explain it to you like this. When Chapter 2 came around, the loot pool obviously had a drastic change. Say bye-bye to all the crap, we were going bare bones mode. One other sneaky change that actually had a huge impact on the meta was the shotgun balancing changes. Both the pump and the tac shotgun saw some pretty significant nerfs. The pump had a raw damage decrease, while the tac shotgun had a headshot multiplier decrease and an increased pullout time. So what I'm trying to say is when you nerf the shotguns, think about the only other thing that you can use in a close range interaction. Spam weapons. So when you go ahead and nerf the pump and you go ahead and nerf the tac, that means that indirectly you're going to be buffing the SMG in a huge way. And who benefits off of a spam gun getting buffed? You guessed it, controller players. And as I'm about to post this video, I actually came across one of the top posts on the Fortnite competitive subreddit that was talking about how the pump does so little damage. The thread basically verbatim says what I'm saying right now, how people are more influenced to use an SMG over a shotgun, which once again benefits controller players. Boxing 2 said, I miss the old days where I could get a green pump and still slay out if I hit my shots. Now, 9 out of 10 games, all I find is a green tac that hits for 40 unless we're in the same box. I've relied on SMGs so much for damage this season. That post got 400 upvotes and a bunch of people replied to that comment in agreement. Needless to say, this theory that I'm concocting right now is not unpopular by any stretch. So all in all, we know 2 things for sure. 1, the shotgun balancing debate has much further implications than any of us could have ever thought. And 2, which is even more important than the first point, Epic Games has so much more power in deciding how effective controller players are just by simply shifting the meta, shifting some damage, shifting some gears, changing a few settings. That's all it takes to shift an entire competitive meta. And if I were in Epic Games' shoes, I'm not gonna lie guys, I'd be kind of scared. It's kind of a daunting task to have this much responsibility right over your head. Because if you shift too far in one direction or another, you're basically screwing an entire population of competitive players that are grinding this game for hours upon hours a day to try to be the best. In my opinion, I don't think it's that much of a secret that Chapter 2 is definitely skewing towards controller players. Maybe this is the most ideal place for competitive Fortnite, but also maybe it's not. Maybe there's other things that could be changed that would make it more fair, such that the best player wins every time. I don't know, I'm just a guy talking into the microphone. Now I got a question for you guys that think controller players are too overpowered in this meta. What do you think could be changed to even the playing field? Let me know in those comments down below. Anyways guys, I think this video is going to open a huge discussion in a perspective that we haven't thought of before. I don't really have anything else to add. I just would love it if you guys could use my code hindog in the item shop if you guys are about to buy some items or anything like that. You know, I didn't ask for likes, didn't ask for subs, didn't ask for people to use my code at the beginning of the video because I truly just wanted you guys to enjoy the video. And if you made it to the end, hopefully you guys enjoyed enough. And if you wanted to support me by liking, subbing, making sure you turn on those notifications, whatever the case may be, I would really appreciate it. And with that said, it's your friend, your homie hindog, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.